I'm going to record some here, obviously, because I want to talk a little bit about how to teach this stuff, or what I have learned about teaching this stuff and all the ways not to do it. And a lot of people have asked that, so I thought this would be a good time to record it. When I first started experimenting with the wheel, I got so excited that I wanted to tell everybody, and I was excited by the whole picture of how it fit together. Yeah. And it really is very joyful to me. It's like, oh, I could draw a picture of it. Oh, I get it. And so I tried to, when I would explain it to people, I would try to give them the whole picture. And what I found was that it didn't work, because that piece that sort of clicked for me was actually built on a lot of experience of mine that I hadn't really noticed that it was built on. And one piece was that for years, 20, 30 years, I had learned and practiced and later taught peer counseling, co-counseling, which is taking turns listening, which we did this week in the class. I knew very well that when you take apart receiving and giving, you get something that you don't get any other way. And I already knew that. I was very confident in it. And I was confident in, okay, when it's my turn, it's really my turn. And so I already had that. And then I had 30 years of work as a chiropractor, so my hands were very sensitive. And I could take in a lot of information from my hands. And I remember, as I look back in my childhood, I also loved textiles. I loved to sew and weave and things because I like the feel of them. So apparently I had some pleasure in my hands. And then I had the advantage of having a couple of hundred people to play the game with. And so I got to see all kinds of different responses and where people got stuck. And so I think those three, plus I stumbled on the game at the workshop. Someone else's brilliance, invented it. It wasn't mine. So I think those things kind of all came together because those are the places where people would get stuck. And the ability to, and the confidence of taking, receiving, and giving apart so that you do one at a time, that is not that's very unusual, I found out. I didn't know that. And a lot of people, when I would first begin to explain it, a lot of people would say, well, I don't like to take them apart. I like to do them both at once. And there was a lot of resistance to it, and I very often it was, well, we really love each other. Like, what, unlike everybody else? We really love each other, so we like to give and receive at the same time. Or I found that when I give, I'm actually receiving something. Or when we give and receive at the same time, it's like this whole different spiritual oneness thing happens. So I got oftentimes a lot of resistance to the idea of, okay, you're receiving or you're giving, you're only doing one at a time. So anyway, my mistake was trying to give somebody the whole thing at once and try to explain it all out. And I discovered that explaining it never works. It just doesn't. And I learned that you have to feel it in your hands before the rest of it makes any sense. And that took me, I think, a couple years to figure out that, in particular, that first piece where you're feeling an object. When I first started playing with that, it was kind of by accident. And so I would bring it out and use it with people that were kind of having trouble getting the taking role. But pretty soon I started doing it with everybody, and I noticed that if I skipped it, if I thought, well, they're not getting it, we'll just go on, that I always regretted it and had to come back and do it again. and I, as I started to think about, well, what's actually happening with the hands, I realized that it's like, if you want to feel pleasure when you're feeling a person and taking it directly, well, these nerve cells have to be connected to these other brain cells, and if they're not, it just doesn't happen. It's like, it's not that you can't feel pleasure in feeling a person, it's that you can't feel pleasure at all. And so that piece had to be in place first. That took me a couple of years to figure out. So what I've learned gradually, and I still kind of struggle with it because I'm so excited, I want to do the whole thing, What I learned was that you can take one small piece of it and make an entire workshop. That you don't have to teach somebody the whole thing. You don't have to teach a client the whole thing. You don't have to teach a workshop the whole thing. You don't have to teach the world the whole thing. I still struggle with that one probably. But that taking one part of it can be a huge aha. In Dublin, Kai had arranged an evening where there's a weekly evening gathering where people bring stuff, talk about it. So he arranged for me to go there. And so we had like 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe. And we had 20 or so people. And we did the exercise where you list why we don't ask for what we want and what do we do instead. And then we did this little game that's actually part of the Cuddle Party Welcome Circle, where you're in a group of 3 and you ask each other, may I do this, would you do that? And you just keep saying no. It's for the practice of saying no. But it also is for the practice of getting your mouth working so that you can ask. It's very fun. It's very silly because everyone is going to say no, so you ask for real ridiculous things. So it's a lot of laughter. So that's all we did. And half a dozen people, 6 people came up afterwards and were so appreciative. Oh my gosh, thank you. That was so big, it was so important and all. I learned so much. And it was a reminder for me of how even this one piece can be completely life-changing for people. So I think what I try to say is, now that you're excited about the wheel, you are totally welcome to take parts of it, teach it, use it in your sessions, use it in your workshops, take it. However, if you think that you have to present the whole thing and that explaining it is important, if you figure it out, let me know, but it hasn't worked for me. It's just too much theory that you have to have some experience in your body before the theory makes any sense. And so, I've always wondered, well, what if I have a TED Talk someday? What will I do? I don't know. Have people feel up their chair cushions or something. I don't know. What you could do in a large audience, I'm not really sure. I don't know. Maybe someone will figure it out. The other thing that I've noticed about myself and sometimes others is that when I'm excited about teaching it, I get very attached to who I want to learn it. I want you people to learn it. I want you to learn it. My poor partner in those years, bless his heart. And I noticed that I was so eager to have other people learn it. Was about my needs, it wasn't about their needs. And so this sort of determination, desperation, why aren't those people wanting to learn it? I had to that made me turn around and get clear about what is it that I want. Well, I want people to play with. That's what I want. And so, and also something shifted in the last year or two about being able to offer it as a true gift. Somehow, after some years, it sunk in that not everybody wants this. and it's not for everybody. And I became okay with that somehow. I'm not sure. I really struggled with it for a long time. But now I've come to, this is a gift. It's an offer. Who takes it, takes it. That's lovely. And I don't care who doesn't take it, because it's not for everyone. That took me a long time. The videos that are on the website, also I sort of stumbled on those accidentally, because I got an email actually from someone who had taken a class, taken Like a Pro like 5 years ago or something. And he emailed me and said, oh, I just want to express my appreciation. I've been teaching your stuff, and here it is on my web page. And so I went to look at the web page, and it wasn't my stuff. It was like, I mean, it had 4 things. That's all it had in common. And I thought, well, wow, that's interesting. And, he hadn't had that much exposure to it. But at any rate, the 4 things that he had there were better than what most people have, but they weren't the quadrants. So I thought, well, I need to just get something out there, because my book is taking so freaking long. And so I thought, well, I'll spend a couple of weeks and I'll make some videos. I'll sit in my living room, Well, that took 9 months to do that. But I have been so glad that they're there, because a lot of people have found them. And now when I go to a workshop, if I teach a one-day workshop, which I often do, I don't have to go into the theory at all. We can spend all the time playing. And then at the end, I can, draw this and do that in about 5 minutes. And then I say, if you want to know more, go to the website. It's all there. So, and of course, you send your people there too, as you like. So that's actually worked out really well. So a great thing to do in a short time is the exercise, why do you not ask for what you want? But you can do that also with why do we not say no? It's just about the same list, very similar list. You could do the waking up the hands piece, and then just have them feel each other's hands. And that could be it for the whole workshop. You just say, now go look at the videos if you want more. The thing that's unique about the wheel is not the idea of consent. There's a lot of great work on consent. People already know that you shouldn't touch people without their permission. What's unique about the wheel is the quadrants where there's a difference between these two. There's a difference between these two, and that, as you saw from, took us 2 days to get through, really explore taking and explore serving. It'll click pretty quickly for most people, 5 or 10, 20 minutes, maybe a couple times through. But we had to do it 5 or 6 times before, oh yeah, now I'm getting it. And that's true of everybody. So unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be something that could easily be presented in a couple hours. Just want to give you that warning, because I know you're going to try it. What also works well is once a week for 4 or 5 weeks. Then you can come back to it again and again. You can do take allow for a couple of weeks, then you do serve accept for 2 weeks, then you draw it, or you might draw it the first time and just barely, and then keep exploring. So that's a very effective way, because it takes coming back to it again and again. It doesn't just click once.
If you just meet somebody and he's asking what you are doing or something like this, just the short version, like a few minutes, maybe,
that's a good
or 2 minutes.
Certain marketers have a formula, and I think Reed Mihalko uses this. I forget where I saw it. But the formula is you ask a person a question about something that's a problem or confusing for them. So it would be like this. Those times when you're with your girlfriend and you're touching each other, but you can't really tell who really wants what, and so you're both sort of confused. everybody will say, yeah. You say, I teach people how to turn that around. Because people can relate to where they have a problem. And the how you do that doesn't matter. If they know they want that if they want to know, they'll ask, or they say, yeah, I'm going to come see you. Or if people say, you know, what was your workshop? What did you learn about? One of the things that I say that's on some of the websites and things is learning the difference between receiving and giving and why it matters and what they're not. Or when to be selfish and when to be generous and why we need both. You have others? You probably have better ones than I do. Things that you have
Learning
said.
what we want, how we want to be touched,
Uh-huh.
and how we can stay in integrity and touch others.
Yes, especially if it's for like a pro, you know, the integrity piece. Or how about learning how to be touched in the way you actually want instead of the way that you're just kind of okay with.
Conditioning.
A lot of people, that is like, oh yeah. People recognize that they've been touched in ways that they're okay with.
Maybe taking responsibility for your learning. Like, because my main experience as a client in any kind of body work is that often I felt lost somehow, like in the hand of my practitioner, and not really knowing where the journey goes or what exactly is happening.
Yeah.
And to take responsibility for this.
Yeah. As the client.
As a client,
yeah.
Like learning to be a better client.
Yeah. What about as a practitioner? Like if you were talking to another practitioner, how to make sure you know what is useful for your client instead of just doing what you do and not noticing if it's really useful. The single most important thing for you to do is to play and practice yourself, and to the extent that it fits your work practice it with your clients, play it with your clients, because their experience will teach you, and of course your own, but you have to feel it in your body. There is no substitute. You cannot take the theory and then start teaching the theory, because you don't get it. So teaching is actually about how do I help people experience it in their bodies? That's the question. And that's why explaining it doesn't work. It has to be a physical experience. It's possible. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on whether the person can get it that fast. Some people can get it quickly, some people cannot. So it's definitely possible. It won't happen every time. Yeah, some people like to have a little bit of structure in their brain to, now I can find the experience. Oh, this is what you're talking about. Now I can find it. Other people, it's the other way. This is what's happening. Oh, now I can see it. And you notice in our class we did some of one, some of the other, some of the other. Yes, you take the tools of the wheel and put them into that workshop. It doesn't mean that you have to teach a workshop on the wheel. Yeah. At the Victoria, Canada workshop, one of the students got a shower curtain, so it's huge, and she drew the quadrants on it and a couple of arrows, and then put it on the floor, and then we could stand on it and move around and see. It was very fun. Yeah, so we were brainstorming how could you use this? What games could you make up that would have this? What's that?
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So
Like throwing a rock on it.
No, you just stand on that and just from where you want.
Yeah.
Even if you're outside of the quadrant and
Yeah.
just like.
and what's it feel like when you stand? Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
like
very
an
fun.
expression. It's like
Yeah. So she's going to make those up, and I have a design. The person who's designing my book is working now on a big poster, and a small thing to hand out, and so we're working on those. They're very fun. Yeah, I think there's lots of really simple, fun games that teach the skills of the quadrant without having to give the theory. So that's one. Another one is this game that's at the end of the cuddle party circle, which is very fun. We can do that. Actually, let's do that. It's a lot of fun.